the new mayor of Jersey City and a man who wanted to be mayor of New York City but lost to Eric Adams. The Point starts right now. A big snowstorm, ice arrest, and a stunning budget deficit left by his predecessor. Jersey City Mayor James Sullivan has had a lot to deal with in the few short weeks he's been in the top gun position in the second largest city in the state. So I say to you, welcome to the job.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Marcia.
I mean,
it's been quite a first 3 weeks.
I mean, could you have ever foretold? I mean, you were in the city council.
Yeah.
But could you ever have anticipated what your first 3 weeks would be like?
No, you can't. But you know what? Even in these first 3 weeks, it's been a great honor to do the job, and you know we're rolling with the punches.
You found out soon after you took the job that there was over $250 million gap, which is a third of the entire budget of Jersey City. What are you going to do?
It was remarkable. I mean, running during the campaign, I knew the budget was not in good shape. I knew gimmicks had been used to sort of cover up budget gaps and deficits, but we didn't know the scope and the scale. And unfortunately, we think there was some systemic and intentional deception that was used. For example, the city just simply didn't pay and didn't budget for $52 million in healthcare bills from 2024 and 2025. They didn't budget for an additional $50 million in healthcare next year. These are extraordinary numbers.
How can you not do that? I mean, just out of curiosity.
It's wild, right? That should never happen. I mean, basically, they were shifting money in different accounts. But because of that, we were not paying our bills on time. So we found, by doing our digging, that the city has now paid $1 million in late fees to our prescription drug provider each of the last 3 years. That's $3 million of money from Jersey City taxpayers given because we didn't pay our bills on time.
But I also saw that there was money where you overpaid for state and federal taxes, and you didn't call for the refunds, and you're out $3.1 million for that. I mean, really?
Wild. And as I said, I'm livid.
Can you get that money back?
We can't. I mean, we'll try, but we are told that we don't have a legal case. We'll ask. We'll do what we can. But this is to the point for your viewers at home. There was a mix of things. There was deception. There was gimmicks. But there was also incompetence. And here, to make sure your viewers know, we overpaid our taxes by $3 million. The IRS notified the city, and the city department heads didn't respond. They didn't reply to the emails. So we lost the money.
So is this an indictment of your predecessor? How did this happen? I mean, he was hired because of his fiscal competence to be head of the Partnership for New York City, which is a major organization. So how did he allow this to happen?
You know, I think 3 weeks on the job, there's a motto, right? The buck stops here. As mayor, you are the person in charge. You are responsible, and you have to wear that on your shoulders. And so ultimately, when we started digging, we found problem after problem after problem. And obviously for the voters, for the viewers, my focus is on the solutions, but I had to be clear about what happened. So yes, you know, the former mayor has to explain how he let this happen, and then my focus has to be on how do we fix it.
But his response is, I didn't do anything wrong, and if I had run for re-election, I would have proposed a budget with no tax increases. How could he do that if there was a gap of $250 million?
By putting it on the credit card. That's how we did it the last 3 years.
How do you run a city on a credit card?
You shouldn't. You should never do it. We have, and I'll tell you just in the budget, we have $76 million in what are called deferred charges. That's money on the credit card. That is money that we basically bonded for and are now paying interest just to pay our bills. So what he did is he took every gimmick, every trick, every little thing that you could shift to another.
Was that because he was running for governor?
Yes. His narrative was, I haven't raised taxes, our city's in good shape. But the fundamental reality was the opposite of that. So he had to just keep pushing the bad headline away, away, away. And the problem is the people of Jersey City are left holding the bill. They're the ones left paying for the consequences.
Yeah, but now you have to deal with the consequences.
I do.
What's the solution?
So what we promised the people of Jersey City is first a 5-year plan, because we got to end the gimmicks. But the economy of Jersey City is strong. We can get back to a self-sufficient, financially stable city. We're going to need to build a whole coalition to do it. So we need our state partners to work with us, the governor, the state legislature.
You need money from the state.
We're going to need help from the state, yes. There's no way out through this without assistance from the state.
Do you have to raise taxes?
We are going to look, I said everybody is, every option is on the table because we're going to be honest. We're not going to tell you one thing and do another. But the one thing I do know is the people of Jersey City are struggling to afford their city right now. Property taxes have gone up 50% in 5 years. That's primarily to pay our school bills. Rent has gone up.
To tax developers more? Is there?
One of the first things we announced was an audit of every tax break that's been given to a developer to make sure they're paying us what they owe. We are going to look at ways in which those who have the most, developers and corporations, can maintain their or can give their fair share of the burden, but it's going to be all of us. We have to all work together to come up with a solution.
But when you say all of us, you're also putting yourself in the mix because you decided to take $1 in salary just this year so you can put back $245,000 into the Treasury. That's like amazing. How are you? Is your wife going to divorce you?
She may be considering it, but for now, I think we're okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to lead by example. I'm at a place financially where I can afford to basically pay my bills without that money.
For 1 year.
Yeah, for 1 year. It's a 1 year salary of $1. But I also think we live in a world right now where billionaires are trying to cut their own taxes so they get even more billions. We need to change the style of leadership we have in this country where those in charge lead by example. And to me, that was an important decision for me to make. I was in a position where I was able to do it. I know that not every person might be able to do that, but important for me to set that tone for the city.
But you also want to do some things. You want to change public safety. For example, I saw that you want to hire more cops. What do you want to do with them?
Sure. So our first announcement was no matter what these challenges are that we're facing, we still have a job. Our job is to deliver core city services more effectively, and public safety is job number one. So on my first day in office, we announced bringing in a new class of 30 police officers. And once they're trained and ready, they're going to be immediately put into our patrol division. So out on the beat, interacting with the community. We've ended our fixed posts. These are where officers didn't move around the community.
You think people will be more safe?
100%. And then the other thing we did is we started a traffic enforcement division. We haven't had traffic enforcement in Jersey City for 12 years.
More tickets?
We're bringing it back. If you're engaging in unsafe driving behavior, yes. We're not going to ticket people to quota to get revenue, but if you're speeding 30 miles an hour, that's dangerous, right? That can lead to loss of life.
And that's why you want to also go back to Vision Zero?
Vision Zero, 100%. We lost 6 lives on our streets last year, 39 pretty serious crashes and injuries. My view is every life lost, every crash is preventable. So with enforcement and engineering, we can genuinely make our streets safe.
So we talk about cops, and now that leads to ICE arrests, and the fact is that Jersey City is a sanctuary city. So what kind of cooperation are you willing to do with ICE agents? Because that's a huge issue in this country right now.
Yeah, we've set our policy very clearly. If ICE has a signed judicial criminal warrant, right? The person has committed a crime, a judge has signed their warrant for their arrest, we will assist. But beyond that, we are not going to assist or cooperate in any way. And we don't think we should have Jersey City money, personnel, resources being used to ultimately harm the very people who live in our city.
So are you, I mean, you have a fair amount of people of immigrant status in your city.
Absolutely.
Should they feel safe because of the policies that you intend to enact?
Again, got to be directly honest. So Jersey City, home of Ellis Island, the golden door to America, 40% of folks in Jersey City were born in another country. We have seen how generations of immigrants have enriched our city and our country, and we're going to do everything in our power to have their back. But what I cannot do is say, we're preventing ICE from operating in Jersey City. That is outside of my power. I'm not able to do that. I don't want to falsely convey that to residents. But what I say to residents is, your city will not cooperate with ICE unless that criminal warrant is signed, and we will make sure none of our resources are used to aid what they're doing.
We only have about 30 seconds left, but I have to ask you, President Trump is threatening to withhold money from sanctuary cities. Does that make you change your mind about whether you should change your status?
No, because our values can't be for compromise and for sale. But what I would say to the president is, the billions you're putting into ICE, let's use that to make healthcare more affordable, to make transportation more affordable, to make housing more affordable. These are people, we had 10 arrests, they were people just going to work, right? Nobody wants to see people just detained for going to work. We can use our money to make all of our lives better.
Mayor Solomon, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. Andrew Yang, a, quote, forward-thinking politician who had written a new book about his political exploits, is up next. Andrew Yang ran for president and mayor of New York City, and he's got a new book out, Hey Yang, Where's My $1,000? Now, I actually read every word of your book, and you talk about this as a blueprint for optimism in an extremely challenging world. Tell me about that.
Well, I did run for president. Not a fan of the Trump vision or team. I mean, he doesn't really have a vision. And so when I was thinking of what to write next, I was disheartened, as are many Americans, and I thought, well, maybe I can do something that's a little more optimistic and try and find light in the darkness or humor. And I've had some really interesting, distinct experiences over the last number of years and hadn't had an opportunity to share them. And so I thought if I could do that and hopefully give people a sense of optimism, then that would be a big win.
But here we are. There are people in this country who are huge supporters of President Trump, and then there are people who are not happy with the way the country is going, especially with the immigration things that are going on in the country. I wonder what you think is the way forward for people looking for a different kind of government.
I think a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump are disappointed, maybe upset and angry. And if you look back on November 2024, what were the two big issues he won on? The border
and economy.
And economy / inflation / price of groceries. Now, ICE is doing things in Minneapolis and otherwise that even a lot of people who voted for him did not vote for, don't like, don't want.
And his poll numbers are going down because of it.
And his poll numbers are going down because of it. But the problem we have in this country, Marcia, really is that you get whipsawed between two sides. And back in 2020, I was a Biden surrogate. I supported Joe Biden in part to get Trump out. I thought Joe Biden did us all a massive disservice, which I write about, in running again in 2024. I thought that was the surest path to a Trump return. But the Biden administration did not do a good job enforcing the border. And so you end up with this pendulum swinging very much the extreme, the other side.
But you also have started the Forward Party. You think there's a third way, which, you know, a third party has not been very successful in American politics in the past. So the question is, what is the path forward? And is there a possibility that you would run for president again in 28?
Well, I joke about it in the book. You know, I'm almost too young not to run for president again, given, you know, who's out there. I think that a third party actually has never had a better moment in my lifetime.
Okay.
Back in 1992, Ross Perot ran and got 19% of the vote, and 25% of Americans at that time said they were independents. Today, it's 45 to 50% of Americans say they're independents, in part because neither of the two parties is doing a great job.
So do you think that the fact that there's a certain amount of disgust with what's going on in the country and unrest also in many places, do you think that a third-party candidacy can succeed at a time when people are saying, what do the Republicans stand for, what do the Democrats stand for?
There's a guy named Mike Duggan who's running as an independent for governor of Michigan right now. And it's, you know, right now it's February. In November, we're going to see if Michigan elects an independent, and he's the three-term mayor of Detroit, biggest city in the state. He was a very successful Democrat, and then he turned in his party badge and said, you know what, in order to get Michigan heading in the direction it needs to go, it can't be Team Blue or Team Red, it has to be Team Michigan. And Mike Duggan is leading in some polls, leading in fundraising. 150 black faith leaders came out and endorsed him because they said, we've been working with this guy for 10 years. So there are opportunities like that around the country that I think are going to become more and more common.
So I'm asking you this question. If that becomes a bellwether for an independent candidacy, do you think that that would bring about you or somebody else running as a third-party candidate in the 2028 presidential elections?
I think the odds of a third-party presidential candidate in each cycle just go up and up. And that the viability also goes up and up. Because if you look at the numbers, and I'm a numbers guy, 2/3 of young people now say they're independents. Again, it's almost half of American adults. And so if you think of it as a market, there's this massive void or a vacuum, and someone's going to step forward to fill it.
Is that someone going to be you?
Well, I'm on a lot of people's list, I suppose. My job, and when people ask me for my politics, it's just to try and make good things happen for people. And I don't think that either party is delivering. I think it's one reason why we're in the spot we're in.
So one of the things that I was really interested in your book is you talk about AI and how it's going to change the economy and how it's going to change the job market. What's the solution for that? I mean, a lot of people, are they going to be out of work? Are we going to have to change the kinds of jobs people do?
If you look back on my campaign in 2020, this was the primary case I was making. I was like, look, AI is coming, it's real, and it's going to decimate a lot of jobs. Unfortunately, that time is now. It's even hitting the stock market. I don't know if you saw last week where a lot of the software firms had like a plummet because people realized, wait a minute, AI can write software much, much faster than humans. So that's going to compound and cascade in various ways. When I was running for president in 2020, I said we should just start giving everyone money. Hence, hey, Yang, where's my $1,000? Which I have been asked here on the streets of New York. Another thing I was asked was, hey, am I racist or are you Andrew Yang? Which is the alternate title for the book. Maybe the next one. But we should just start giving everyone money, Marcia. I mean, these
UBI.
Yeah, universal basic income, freedom dividend, whatever you want to call it. These AI companies, by the way, are realizing trillions of dollars of value built off of our data. Our data is getting sold and resold for hundreds of billions of dollars a year, and no one's seeing a dime but them.
See, here, the real question is, how are people going to support themselves in an AI world? You know, I went out and talked to people about how they apply for jobs, and one person told me that she found the way of applying for jobs demoralizing because you get no response even if you submit hundreds of applications. Another person said to me it's a game of putting buzzwords that have to do with AI. And I wonder, how do people find jobs in this world and what do they do?
First, I want to say if you have your job, you might want to keep it because it's very, very difficult out there for job searchers. You have to go old school, in my opinion, Marcia, because right now, in many cases, you have an automated AI bot screening application. So you have AI to AI. It's very hard to get through the door that way. The old-fashioned way would be to call people you know, see if anyone has any openings.
Is that passé?
It's what is old is new again, pretty much. Like you should do some old-fashioned networking, and you should do it, by the way, even while you still have a job, because after you lose your job, it's harder.
So what kinds of jobs should people be training for today?
The most resilient jobs are non-repetitive manual and non-repetitive cognitive, which fancy ways of saying. So we're talking about electricians, plumbers, people like that? HVAC repair, things that robots have a very hard time doing. And if you're not handy, that there are going to be opportunities in business still. They just might look very different. And the big companies are going to be hiring fewer people. By the way, Verizon just laid off 13,000 people, or announced, I think it's going to be more over time, just a couple months ago. Like, the big corporates are going to be contracting. So if you're going to be looking for a job, you might want to look at smaller growth firms.
All right, on that note, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. But our conversation continues right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. Thank you for joining me. When you go shopping, do you prefer to take the high-tech road or the low-tech road? Human cashier or self-checkout? New Yorkers are weighing in on your point. Do you prefer self-checkout or human cashier?
Self-checkout.
Self-checkout.
Why?
I just like doing it myself.
When you have self-checkout, you can just come, you ring up your items, you're good, you're gone.
Human cashier.
Why?
Yeah, human contact.
I like the human cashier because I feel like these days we are losing touch with humanity.
Because I'm old school and I like someone having a job.
What's the best thing about self-checkout?
Yeah, it's the fastest.
Less hassle sometimes. It's convenient, it's fast, and it's simple.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't really grocery shop.
Nothing. I don't want my identity stolen, you know, like my eyes are being scanned, my face is being scanned.
You know, you're responsible for your own things. You can check out quickly. You're gone. We're New Yorkers. We got things to do, people to see. You know what I mean?
Well, the best thing about self-checkout, I would say, is speed. And you're in control completely of your own stuff.
What's the worst thing?
Speed. And you're in control of your own stuff.
Sometimes the system just...
Sometimes it just doesn't work.
Been scanned or the camera watches you and they think that you slid something across without.
Sometimes when it stops working and you just kind of have to fetch someone to help you.
Then that defeats the whole purpose of using self-checkout, which is supposed to be faster.
Why do you think stores and businesses are switching to self-checkout?
Because it's the way to go. It's new technology.
Monopoly. Control us. Cut costs.
So that they can eliminate people.
Money. They want to make more money.
They don't want to pay people.
They want less workers and more computers. It's easier to just sort of deal with the machine.
So is there a value to having a human cashier?
I guess, but maybe not as much if you have human like employees on standby.
Absolutely.
Yes, because it's human.
I see the face. I see humanity. I don't see a robot in front of me.
That human interaction that you don't get with self-checkout. And it makes it more personable.
Especially in New York, where everything is, you feel part of your neighborhood, you feel part of your community.
Where I work, we always say they're the cherry on top of the customer service experience.
You don't want to go to Chanel and do a self-checkout, right? But in the grocery store where you're buying a gallon of milk and a dozen eggs, why then it makes sense.